Today, we're going to talk about something that feels like a paradox in our digital world, right? We're constantly chasing this idea of perfect cybersecurity. We build these digital walls higher and higher, but somehow the breaches just keep on happening. So let's get into why our whole approach might just be flawed from the very beginning.
I mean, it's a fair question, isn't it? We have all this incredible computing power, AI, machine learning. So why is a truly, completely impenetrable system still just a dream? Well, it turns out the answer isn't about building better tech. The problem is actually baked into the very DNA of computing itself.
And that leads us to the first huge roadblock, the theoretical limits of what code can even do. You see, the dream of having one program that can perfectly scan any other program for every single possible flaw, well, it crashes right into a wall of mathematical impossibility. To get this, we have to go back to the legendary Alan Turing and something called the halting problem. Basically, what he proved is that you can't write a single master program that can look at any other program and know for sure if it will eventually finish its job or just get stuck running forever in an infinite loop. It's a fundamental mathematical speed limit on what computers can truly know about each other.
So, think about what that means for security. If you can't even be 100% sure that a program will ever stop running, how on earth could you know everything else it might do, like if it has a hidden vulnerability or some malicious intent? This completely sinks the idea of a perfect, all-knowing bug scanner. It just can't exist. It's mathematically impossible. And if you think that's a bit mind-bending, the idea gets even broader with something called Rice's theorem. It kind of takes the halting problem and puts it on steroids. It says this limitation applies to any non-trivial property. And non-trivial is just a fancy way of saying any interesting question you'd actually want to ask about a program, like say, is this thing secure? And here's the kicker, the real-world takeaway. Rice's theorem proves that no antivirus, no security software, no firewall can ever be 100% perfect. There will always be a blind spot, a shadow where malicious code can hide because the problem itself is fundamentally unsolvable. You can't code your way out of a mathematical proof. So, from the get-go, we're fighting against the fundamental laws of computation. But, let's just pretend for a second. Let's wave a magic wand and say we could solve that. Even then, we'd run smack into an even bigger, more practical problem: the sheer complexity of the very systems we build to protect ourselves.
It always starts out so simple, right? You've got a system, you need to protect it. So, what do? First? You put up a firewall to watch the traffic coming in and out. Easy enough.
But of course, that's not enough. So you add encryption to scramble the data. Then you add an intrusion detection system to look for anything sketchy going on. And you know what? Each one of these layers makes perfect sense by itself.
And then you add multi-factor authentication and access controls and logging systems, and it just keeps going. We keep stacking on these layers thinking more layers equals more security. But what we're really building is a giant, teetering tower of complexity. And that, right there, is the trap. Every new security tool has to play nice with every single other tool. The more pieces you add, the more connections you create, and the more chances there are for a mistake, a misconfiguration, a conflict, a tiny little crack that an attacker can wiggle through. The complexity becomes the vulnerability.
This quote just nails it. Every single thing we do to protect a system also changes that system. We think we're just adding a deadbolt to the door, but we might be accidentally warping the door frame, creating a brand new way for someone to get in that we never even thought of. Okay, so even if we could somehow beat the math and untangle all that complexity, we'd still be left with the most unpredictable, the most creative, and often the most vulnerable part of any system: us, people.
And this is the constant tug of war, isn't it? The security team wants to make things as difficult as possible for an attacker. But what does that do? It usually makes things difficult for a regular user too. Usability is all about making things simple, fast, and easy. And these two goals are almost always pulling in opposite directions.
So what happens when security just becomes too annoying? People find a way around it. They have to. They write that super complex 30-character password on a sticky note and put it on their monitor. They share their login to help a coworker. They just click ignore on that security pop-up for the 10th time because they have a deadline. Your perfect system just got bypassed by a Post-it note. And you better believe attackers know this. They know that human frustration and our natural desire to be helpful is a massive vulnerability.
So why try to break through a complex firewall when you can just trick a person into opening the door for you? That's social engineering. It's not about hacking code, it's about hacking psychology.
The playbook is surprisingly simple and effective. Step 1. They do their homework on you. They find out where you work, who your boss is. Step 2. They build trust. They'll send an email pretending to be your IT department or even your CEO. And once they have that trust, they go to step 3. They manipulate you into clicking the link, giving them the password, or granting them access.
So if perfect prevention is a myth because of the limits of code, the trap of complexity, and the reality of human nature, then what do? Just give up? No. We have to change the goal entirely. We need to stop chasing perfection and start building for resilience.
And this really is the whole point. Chasing the illusion of an unbreakable system, that's not the solution. That is the problem. It sets us up for failure, it creates brittle systems, and it burns out our users, all because we're chasing a goal that was never achievable in the first place.
You can really see the massive shift in thinking here. The old goal was all about building that impenetrable fortress. The new goal? Assume the fortress will be breached. It's inevitable. So the focus shifts from trying to stop every single attack to instead minimizing the damage, detecting intruders incredibly fast, and recovering as quickly as humanly possible.
The best analogy I've heard for this is public health, right? We know we can never eliminate every single germ or virus from the planet. That would be impossible. So what do? We focus on prevention, vaccines, washing our hands, but we also put a ton of effort into rapid response for outbreaks and learning from them so we're better prepared for the next one. It's about managing risk, not pretending you can eliminate it.
So this is what that resilience strategy really looks like in practice. You absolutely still try to prevent what you can. That's your frontline defense. But you invest just as much, if not more, in being able to spot an attack the second it happens, having a plan to respond effectively, and then, most importantly, recovering and adapting so you're stronger for it. So in the end, we have to stop thinking of security as this static, concrete wall. A much better way to see it is as a living ecosystem, something that can bend but not break, that can absorb a hit, that can heal itself and adapt. It's dynamic and alive, not brittle and lifeless. And all of this leaves us with one final, massive question for the future. As AI gets more and more powerful, creating both incredibly smart defenses and terrifyingly smart attacks, is this resilience model going to be enough? We are entering a new kind of arms race. And honestly, the answer isn't clear at all. But it's a question we're all going to have to face, and soon.